Hi, it's Jeff. Leo is not here. He's on vacation. He's not kidnapped. The show still went on without him, and we didn't get into fights about moral panic or Gutenberg or anything. Ant and Stacey and I had a great time talking about Stacey's house and her bad memory, about fleeting fleets, and about Facebook still confusing us. All of that is coming up next.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is This Week in Google, episode 620, recorded Wednesday, July 14th, 2021. Big swingin' Branson.
This Week in Google is brought to you by Wealthfront. To get your first $5,000 managed for free for life, go to wealthfront.com/twig and start growing your savings today.
It's time for This Week in Google. I know what you're saying right now. Oh no, where's Leo? It's going to be 2 hours of Gutenberg and moral panic. Oh no. But fear not. I'm not alone. I'm here with the two best people we could be here with. Ant Pruitt, the amazing, wonderful moral panic king. Ant Pruitt is here. Hello, Mr. Ant. How are you?
Hello, Mr. Jarvis. I'm unbelievable. How about you, sir?
Good. Ant has worked like crazy. He's not only on the show, he's been producing the show. He's been putting stuff in the rundown. He's putting coal in the burners to keep the power on. Ant's doing everything alongside Jammer B behind the board. And of course,
doing the best
we have Stacey Higginbotham.
Hello, and I am doing
Stacey.
nothing.
You're being Stacey. That's all we need you to be, is the brilliant Stacey. Leo is in Hawaii, damn him, having a good time and drinking drinks with parasols in them and such. But he'll be back in a week. It is a hard life. Somebody's got to do it. So we're here on our own, and I'm the putative host, so you can blame me for everything that goes wrong, and I'll blame Jammer B or Ant or somebody. But here we have a packed rundown. We'll have a lot of fun, and so here we go. So the first thing I figured I want to talk about was I want to hear your reactions, first Ant then Stacey, to Richard Branson in space. What did you think?
Well, I think I'm one of the people that really did not care. But I think that's the fault of the media as to why I didn't care about this, because I think it was Sunday when this all went down, right? I think it was Sunday. But you go to Twitter and everything is talking about Branson goes to space and billionaires beats this other billionaire and goes into space, yada, 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 yada. And I'm just thinking, you know what? Normal folks like myself, we really don't care that these people that have all of this extra disposable income, granted they earned it, sure, but we don't care about them flying into space and coming back. It's just, I didn't care for it at all. But what they failed to point out, at least a lot of the media failed to point out, is this is stuff that could be used for research, as far as travel, because it, who knows, down the road, it may be less expensive and faster to go places over, through the air and whatnot. But none of that was even brought up. It was all about who got there first and how did they do it. And it just seemed like a bunch of, and we got cash and we can do this and you can't, and if they want to go to Mars, I'm to the point, hey, have at it, go, leave me back here.
Stacey, what did you think as you were watching? Did you watch?
I didn't watch, but the whole time, I'm very excited about space. I'm a huge space nerd. I wanted to be an astronaut. I went to NASA as a kid a couple times because I lived in Houston. So I am like, this content should be speaking to me. Mm-hmm. But I will say, reducing what should be a team effort. Like, you just don't go to space on your own. You go to space with a team of like hundreds of people working behind you, right? So this idea of these people, it felt super self-aggrandizing. It didn't feel like, I don't know if the media just didn't report the like levels of research, but I'm kind of like, I mean, I get very excited about the shuttle launches, the Dragon, the reuse of a shuttle, landing back. All of that's really awesome because it feels like we're forwarding technology. But when you put people in space, that feels a bit like a vanity project. Kind of like I wasn't super excited when Elon Musk stuck a car up in space. I'm like, buddy, what? No, space should be pure engineering. We're already excited about it. It's like poetry. It's engineering prowess. And what we're doing is turning it into this like big swinging, I can't say the word, complex, and I don't
Richard,
like it.
A big swinging Richard, yes.
Yeah, a big swinging Richard.
But Miss Stacey, what I dig about the stuff that SpaceX was doing was the engineering part of it. I'm sure he sent the car up into the heavens and whatnot, but I always look forward to those boosters coming back and them figuring out from an engineering standpoint how to properly land those things. That stuff amazes me because
it changes the economics of going to space.
I mean, there's people that are smart enough to figure that stuff out, but yet you go and ask somebody on D Street in Petaluma to parallel park and they can't pull it off.
As somebody said, we should give credit to Elon Musk for not putting himself in space. Right? Yeah, he did put his car in space.
He was hanging out in Richard Branson's kitchen.
And he's got to go up and do it. Yeah, I was, and I'm the guy here who tends to say, innovation and capitalism. And, I was offended. I was just outright offended. I thought it was such a display of wealth for wealth's sake. I think you raise a really good point, Ant, that there are things to be learned, but nobody emphasized that. Nobody said this is how we're going to benefit from. People, they throw that in there, but they wouldn't really give examples of how. And it was mine's faster than yours, and mine is bigger than yours, and they are phallic symbols. They just are. Sorry, they just are.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And he didn't really get to space. It's 50 miles. As somebody said, it was a drunken pilot who just went a little too high. And Bezos is now saying he's going to go higher. And then this ostentatious, the most ostentatious thing to me in the end was putting on the wings and calling himself an astronaut. I'm an astronaut now.
Right.
A lot of people worked really hard and studied really hard and risked their lives, and some lost their lives to be astronauts. And I surprised myself with my visceral reaction to it. I think we have to keep in mind what you said, Ant, which is that we can learn things, which goes to what Stacey says here, which is that it can serve the higher purpose. But there was no engineering to that discussion, to the coverage. Yeah.
None.
No. Big swinging Branson.
Yeah. There we go.
Show title.
You'll decide, Mr. Producer. You'll decide. Yeah, so that was that. Meanwhile, Sundar Pichai was interviewed by the BBC. I'm sure you didn't. I actually listened to the whole thing. We have a little bit of video here, if John wants to go to it, where the guy has Sundar play cricket, which is kind of a nice moment. I don't know if we can get that point.
You wanted to be a cricket player when you grew up, and that makes two of us. So I have brought my lucky charm. This is my talisman, my special thing, which I had on my desk when I was a newspaper editor. And if you have time, I've always wanted to bowl the boss of Google or Googly. So we could just have a little knock somewhere around here if you've got time.
Well, why not?
Let's do it.
I'm glad I caught that ball.
I don't want to cause you any problems by taking your teeth out. Knock a quick 10 billion off the share price.
This shows more teamwork than the
see if we can stick a Google search on this. He can bat.
All right.
Bowl, one quick one.
This is adorable.
I'm going to smash it.
It kind of is, isn't it?
All right.
I mean, it's basically by boys playing sports. Like,
yeah.
But I did bowl you a full toss.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so Pichai is human, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of cool.
Human. He's a
we
nice
know that.
man.
He's the good guy. So I listened to the interview, and it struck me. It's like BBC interviews. They try to be tough and they try to be confrontive, and all it is he went back to the Wi-Fi sniffing. Do you really care about privacy if your company was Wi-Fi sniffing? Of course, that was before you were in charge, so you really weren't responsible for it. So I'm not sure why I'd ask. I had nothing else to throw at you. So he throws things at him that we all know, we all see. And it was disappointing. He seems like a good interviewer. He seems like a very smart guy, and that's all fine. He has a news show on BBC. That's all fine. But I'll throw a question to both of you. I don't have an answer myself to this question. If you had the chance to spend an hour with Sundar Pichai, what would you want to know from him?
I would like to know his vision of where he thinks technology is going and what kind. I mean, so I'm super nerdy. So I'd be like, hey, what kind of architecture, what kind of world are we building? If you think about where the form of computing that we have today with massive data centers, with, disposable consumer devices, with amalgamations of data, if you were reinventing that, what would you want it to look like? And then how can we get there from where we're at? So I would try to be both visionary and practical, because I feel like every CEO has to think that way anyway.
And what would you ask him?
Two things. First, what are you going to do about just the whole focus of Alphabet and Google? Because I think I've mentioned this before, but everything seems to be so scattered from a product standpoint. Whether it's something going on with Android, whether there's something going on with the hardware itself, Chromebooks, the phones, it never seems like there's, or even the apps, all of the apps seem to just sort of be here for a minute and then they're gone. They're here for a long time and never really touched, but they don't really kill them off, such as like Google Voice and things like that. So it always seems like it's just a big scatter of leadership and management when it comes to their products. And secondly, I would ask them, did you really want to be CEO at Google or not?
What do you think the answer to that is?
He seems like he was pretty ambitious and yeah, this is something he wanted to do, but there's no way I'd take that job.
I don't think you're a CEO without wanting to be a CEO.
Yeah.
You don't just like someone doesn't like, oh, you've been doing a great job, let's have you be the CEO. That doesn't really happen.
No, that's some serious.
It's how much of the rest of management happens.
Yes.
Right? We always say in journalism, the good reporters become editors and they don't know how to edit or manage. But yeah, I think
true.
You're right, Stacey.
Well, nobody in journalism knows how to edit or knows how to manage
either. That's why the industry's dying. Yeah, exactly. I'd want to ask him about. So the guy asked him things like, "Well, you're the 11th largest economy in the world. Do you have too much power?" I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure how I would answer.
What does that equate to?
Exactly, and that's what he kind of said. He said, "You're basically you're mixing apples and kumquats here. We're not a government. We're not a country." But I would want to hear from him about the responsibility. I would want to hear that after the great days of the huge optimism and now into the dystopia we have, the moral panic. Sorry, I had to do it. Try and stop me. What is your responsibility, right? What have you learned? What do you need to do differently? What does make a great company now? There's so much I'd want to ask him because he doesn't speak that often in that kind of way. To get him for a full hour, I was just kind of sad that it was the usual, but what about? And I think Steve was a smart guy.
You don't know what made it on the cutting room floor. And true. I would say, like, having done, like at Fortune, we used to do sit down interviews that were videoed. And some of the more thoughtful questions were then edited, or thoughtful answers were edited into these weird sound bites. So, I mean, I do think Pichai is a very thoughtful individual. And so I think that he's probably thinking about these things. Maybe he doesn't articulate them. Maybe his PR people were like, let's not do that. You don't want to get him started on this.
That's a good point too, is that he could have given a really boring answer to a good question.
Well, and it's not just boring. It's like when someone, well, I was just going to say, sometimes, when you talk to people who are on another level, who are thinking about the big issues, you're not ready to sit down and listen to their response, and certainly not on television. And I think that does get lost. Like, I mean, I've interviewed these people who are just brilliant. And when you get them talking about things, to get to their answer, you have to go through like thickets of weird information that explain their thought process, that gets due to the nuance. But all of that gets cut out. I don't know. Because
it's the TV time constraints. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because it's in the TV
even as a journalist, like, it's sometimes boring. Like, you're like, oh my God, why are you telling me about Shakespeare? And what about the history of monkeys? What? And then you get there and you're like, okay, that was worth it. But you know that most people are not going to sit through all of that, right? I don't know.
Let me tell you about the history of monkeys and Gutenberg.
I kid you not. I talked to the guy in charge of neuromorphic computing at IBM, Dharmendra, I can't think of his last name, brilliant fellow, such a great interview, totally useless if I were going to put it on television. He talked about Shakespeare, monkeys. I think the plague even came in there. But yeah, it was just never going to make it.
One more story before we'll do a commercial and a treat from Stacey. It surprised her that I want to see from her.
Treats.
Treat. A waffle for everybody. Everybody gets a waffle under their chair. Just check right now. You've got a waffle there from Stacey.
Yes.
Or queso.
Or queso. A little messy, but so Google got fined $593 million, 500 million euros, I think it is, by the French Antitrust Agency because they were not negotiating in good faith with the French publishers. I'll go ahead and just the suspense on this.
Jeff, what are your thoughts on this?
You can imagine what I'm going to say. It's really hard to be accused of negotiating in good faith with blackmailers, is my view. This is part of this, the extension of the Leistungsschutzrecht come to all of Germany, the ancillary copyright. They're being forced with a gun aside their head to negotiate, air quotes, with these publishers. And Google, I think, is right to hold tough and is right to say that well, you know, negotiation means that we have our chance to say what we want to do and we actually go back and forth. But that's not what the authorities are doing. And then my friend Ben Evans, who I quote, I think every time on the show, had a fascinating little tweet that said that the fine is about equal to the entire market valuation of the major French newspapers. For that fine, they could just buy the newspapers. And so what is the money going to? What does this money really mean? It's a huge fine. It's for the sake of emotions and saying, I slapped Google around, aren't I good? And everybody slaps Google around. Then what did it get us? So I had to get that off my chest. That's what I have to say. What about you guys?
Well, so I'm a little...
Stacey?
Oh, go on, Ant.
No, I see it similar to you. It just seems like more of a big ego stroke for the folks in France to say, hey, yeah, we can slap them around and have them do what we say is right, regardless of what our readers here in this area are looking for.
Well, France seemed to be, as part of their negotiations, Google had said, hey, we are going to pay for some content. And they said that they would pay for content. I guess the French regulator said that they would pay the same amount it would for like dictionary listings and other data. So I saw that and I was like, as a journalist, I'm like, but journalists in news, we actually do work. We're much more than just straight up data. But then I think about, you know, how do you charge for context? And that's tough to negotiate or think about, right? I don't know.
Right. It's also the problem with the Australian negotiations too, is there's an exchange. You have to acknowledge there's an exchange of value. And the publishers and the government seem to presume that everything goes to Google because Google's the one who's successful. But in fact, Google keeps sending audience to the publishers and publishers don't know what to do with the audience.
Well, they don't always send. I mean, Google can send audiences to publishers 100%, but they can also basically, if you're a publisher, you need to be investing not in data stories, right? Like that's going to be commodified really fast. You have to provide context and a point of view. And I don't know that there's a huge audience for context and a point of view beyond like the quick clickbaity things, right? So I think this is really tough. You're biting human nature, and I don't know where we're just in a bad spot. Journalism is just screwed.
Stacey, we'll get out of it. No, we are. I even saw a story this week that's not on the rundown that the Atlantic. It was a good piece from Dylan Byers and NBC saying that the Atlantic is losing a lot of money right now, and the new CEO who came from Wired, who's very smart, says they'll be profitable next year, but evidently told the staff, honestly, where it was. And it's almost a case where they had too much money. Laurene Powell Jobs gave them a huge amount of money. They hired 100 people. I subscribed to The Atlantic, but it was like worse than a pile of unread New Yorkers. They almost had too much. Ouch. They were trying to do everything, right? And it occurred to me that Bezos, well, he'll be unsung at this, but he was brilliant at giving the Washington Post the resources to be successful, but also giving them discipline. And everybody wants there to be a white knight. It's money from Google, or it's a rich person coming after you. You still got to make the venture work. I mean, you've had to work, Stacey, around ventures that didn't work. And it's painful to see that happen, right?
Is it easy enough to equate this to you walk into a restaurant that is, air quotes, high-end restaurant, and they bring you a menu that's this thick, and that'll never work? But if someone brings you a menu that's got 10 items, maybe it's just one or two pages, that restaurant is probably just absolutely crushing it. Is it the same way to equate?
Yeah, I think that's right. If you went to a Mexican restaurant and they tried to say, "Oh, here's our foie gras page," you'd scratch your head and say, "Where am I?" Right. Now, there is, by the way, a law in New Jersey, by the way, that every single restaurant in New Jersey must serve pasta or it folds. It is the state of pasta.
In Texas,
have pasta
you must have some kind of taco.
Yes.
Period.
There's a job, by the way. I didn't put it in the rundown.
Biscuits.
Well, there you go. I'll have those. McCormick Spices has a new taco ambassador job. They want to push their spices to taco people. I didn't put that in the rundown, nor did I put in the rundown the...
Thank goodness.
That's insulting.
the ice cream manufacturer that, honest to God, has Kraft macaroni and cheese ice cream. I chose to have a higher level than today's show. While we're on news, I'll mention one more thing.
Stories from Jeff.
Yes, gross food stories. So Murdoch tried to compete with Google News a year and a half ago. You remember he started Knewz.
Right.
Which was his effort at having a balanced, neutral response to Google News. Well, guess what? What just happened?
It folded.
It's dead. It's gone. Murdoch has failed at everything possible with the internet. This is why he hates it so much. MySpace. I worked for him long ago with Delphi. Everything he's done with the internet has failed miserably. And here's the latest one. So goodbye, Knewz. It's gone. All right, why don't we take a break? And when we come back, I want to have Stacey give us a tour in words or however she chooses of her modern home. I was fascinated by this, and I created a piece in the rundown entirely for Stacey stuff. And mainly to get that in there, but anything else that might seem to be Stacey-ish. And she said, "What are you talking about?" What?
I was saying, and she was like, "Really? Huh?
What?" Yeah, she was like, what do you mean? You're gonna violate my privacy? What the hell are you doing?
You called it the Stacey home tour, and I was like,
"Yeah."
Wait,
she was like,
"This just because I took people to."
You'll find out when we get back how we're going to have a tour of Stacey's home. But in the meantime, we're going to hear from Leo. Not on the beach. I'm not going to lie to you. He's too smart to be doing these. He did this before, but for one of our beloved sponsors that makes Twit and Twig possible.
Hey, if you don't mind, I'd like to interrupt briefly. Yes, I know I'm in Hawaii right now, but I was so excited to tell you about our new sponsor. I had to come back. No, I'm recording this ahead of time. And it's not technically a new sponsor. I've known about Wealthfront forever, practically since they've started. These days, and you've heard us talk about this on Twig, investing is complicated. It's confusing. It could be a little bit scary, too. Everybody talks about diamond hands and stonks memes and rocket ships. Day trading is okay for some people, but if you want to build long-term wealth, you need something a lot more serious. You need Wealthfront, a Wealthfront investment account today. I'm going to tell you this. I say this every time. I tell everybody I know this. I tell my kids this. For some reason, nobody believes me, but it's really true. Decades of data show investors that trade individual stocks underperform the market every year. So, you know that guy says, I'm making so much money in day trading. 1% of day traders beat the market. Only 1%. The market beats them almost every time. In fact, there's a very famous bet Warren Buffett had with some hedge fund manager saying, you know, I'm just going to invest in the market and I'll beat your hedge fund. And he did. He did. The odds are not in your favor if you're doing it alone. You should team up with Wealthfront. Investing, complicated, confusing, but I know you want to have some agency in this, and that's what Wealthfront's great for. Whether you're beginning, you're brand new, you're just getting out of college, you're starting up your retirement funds, or you've been investing for years, Wealthfront makes it easy. No matter what your needs, your portfolio, your goals, they have the right tools. They can create a portfolio for you. These are the words you want to hear: globally diversified, low-cost index funds, personalized just for you in minutes. No manual trades, no picking stocks. You don't need to watch the stock market every day. That's a recipe for disaster. That's a headache in the happening. Wealthfront handles all the investment. You set the preferences. That's where your agency is. You say, this is my goals. This is what I like. This is the risk I'm comfortable with, and you let Wealthfront handle the rest. They also do something that's incredibly complicated, but is very important to save you money, something called tax loss harvesting. That lowers the taxes you pay as you invest. For a typical client, tax loss harvesting with Wealthfront can more than cover their low advisory fee. Of course, the fee is very low. It's 0.25%. But the Wealthfront harvesting happens automatically. That's probably why Wealthfront now, when we started talking about them years ago, they were just getting started. They now handle $20 billion of assets. In fact, they've got a great offer for you. Your first $5,000 managed for free. Forever. Go to wealthfront.com/twig. Now, I'm telling you, if you're young and you just put that $5,000 in, you know what? I don't have $5,000. Put in a few bucks a month. It's the right way to go. All you need is $500 to get started. You don't have to have $5,000 up front. Grow your wealth the easy way. Let Wealthfront do the work for you. They're really a great company. To get your first $5,000 managed free for life, go to wealthfront.com/twig. That's WEALTHFRONT. Wealthfront.com/twig to start growing your savings. Do it right. Go to wealthfront.com/twig and get started today. If I could go back in time 40 years when I was just getting out of school, just starting my career, if I could have just, of course, that didn't exist back then, but save your money, Leo, and put it in Wealthfront the minute they start. Wealthfront.com/twig. Hey, they're around now. There's no better time to start than right now. Wealthfront.com/twig. We thank them so much for their support of This Week in Google. All right, back to you guys.
Thank you, Leo. And thank you, Wealthfront. I'm glad you realized that Twig and Twit people are wealthy and need help with their wealth because we're just so smart and successful. I'm delighted with that. So, Stacey, I looked at Stacey on IoT and I said, I wonder what's on Stacey's brain. And right there was this beautiful post of exactly what I wanted. I wanted to hear everything about Stacey's now newly connected home. And when I said, I want to see this, she just acted like I was violating her privacy because she forgot she wrote it almost. Oh, you're muted, Stacey.
Oh, she's muted.
Dang it. I did forget I wrote it because I wrote it last week, but that's just life on the edge here. So yeah, I wrote about, it's been a year. I've been in this house for a year and I hadn't really set up my smart home in my prior home because it was a rental. And after a year here, I kind of was like, well, really it's as set up as it's going to be for now. And the big caveat is I am waiting for Matter. It used to be Project Chip. So I'm waiting for a lot of devices. So I'm not purchasing some things that need to happen.
Well, tell us, stop right there for a second. Tell us what are the kinds of things you're waiting for. I'm eager to hear about that.
Sure. So in my Austin home, back when I was crazy, I had, all of these hubs, all of this Z-Wave gear, some Zigbee gear, and I was creating these crazy recipes like if this sensor detects motion, but this sensor hasn't detected motion, and this sensor says it's daylight, turn this light on, right? There was a lot. And I would spend like an hour to 2 hours every week, like keeping everything up to date and playing with stuff and futzing. I don't do that anymore. I gave up on all of that because, once Project Chip was announced, I was like, ooh, this could be good. This could make all of that stuff I do obsolete, please. And it's coming. We're going to see. So, so I listed all of the devices that I had, but I wanted to get that caveat out of the way because for a long time, that's what I did. And that's why I think a lot of people followed me and they asked me questions about things. And I still have, smart things that I can test and do test, but I don't use it in my day to day and I don't make my family use it,
So you've not arrived in Valhalla yet, in Connected Valhalla. That will come.
Connected Valhalla has not arrived. I have known that. But
take us through what you have done to date. You showed us one thing last week, which we all loved.
Yeah, the wall.
She doesn't remember that either.
Oh, the nanoleaf.
Stacey, I'm the old guy here, right? I got no memory. I got no brain anymore.
That look on her face was priceless.
I have the excuse. You have no excuse. This is your own home. This is your own life. These are the things that you have said.
I could actually look to, like, if I go like this, I'm like, oh, hello, nanoleafs. I'm so sorry.
For those of you on audio, what I said, you showed us last week, there was a complete blank look. As Ed said, it was the greatest look.
Face, like,
completely blank. Like, what did I do last week? That's history. I don't remember. Hi.
Yeah.
Anyway, you showed us a wonderful, beautiful thing you created last week, Stacey. Remember now?
Yes, I do. So yes, that was great. So in addition to that, I have like 30 to 50 Wi-Fi devices, and all of them are geared to making our lives just a little bit easier, a little bit more voice controlled, mostly voice controlled, I'll be honest. So I detailed in this post everything in my smart home. I'm going to just condense a lot of this and say most of it is running on either an Amazon Echo, or one of a series of Google Assistant devices. So I don't have any HomeKit because Kevin does the HomeKit stuff. That's important to note. We split that up because otherwise it's just too much. And most of my automations are around lights and a couple around locks, and I'd like to get better at that. So I have 4 different sets of light kind of things. I have Wise smart outlets, Lutron switches and a Lutron outlet, Philips Hue bulbs, and the nanoleaf stuff. I'm just thinking through. Yes. Oh, and Wise light bulbs. So those 4 ecosystems are my lights. And I have clumped them all together using rooms or whatnot in the Amazon and the Google apps. So that's most of this stuff. And then there's my boring stuff. Like I have a Fin water monitor device that checks my house for leaks. I have an Aquanta, which is on my water heater, and it says things like, hey, if you take your water heater temperature down, you can save energy. It also does things like it has a sensor attached in case it ever leaks. It's a really handy device. It's more for saving energy than it is for anything else, but I can use it to like turn off my water heater when my daughter is taking a 40-minute shower if I wanted to. I have.
Wait. You could turn it off. You could freeze her out, but you don't.
Yes.
Have you been known to do it once just to make a point?
No, because she's pretty good. I mean, all I have to, she's 15 or she's 14. So I'm like, you are hurting the planet. And she's like, not the planet. It's a low blow from my perspective. So water, HVAC. So I've got the EcoBees. I did find a sensor. After writing that post, my husband was like, we have a sensor. It's just downstairs. And I was like, oh. And then the other thing that's come in real handy is outdoor sprinkler controls. I don't have an irrigation system, but I do have faucets. And so I have the Orbit Beehive that actually arrived. So I set that up to set up my summer watering schedule. And that is really handy because I feel like I'm saving water, and that's really important. And yet still watering my tomatoes. I don't know what else was in there. Was there anything else in there?
You have your mailbox thing hanging down over your Christmas wreath.
Oh, yes. That's because my mailbox is so far away. I have the Ring mailbox sensor, which, by the way, does not use the Amazon Sidewalk network. I can't wait till it does, because then it will actually reach far enough that because right now my Wi-Fi barely reaches my mailbox. I have to stick it in the outer edge of the garage. So that's where that's hanging right now. It's so pretty. And then the only other thing are my locks. And I'm really waiting on the Matter protocol to get sorted out, new Matter enabled locks, because I want to put locks on all of my doors so I can do a good night routine that works. But right now I have a Z-Wave lock, but I have no Z-Wave hubs that I really want to set up for that. So that'll go away soon.
So 2 questions.
I don't know.
Does any of this irritate your husband and daughter?
Not anymore. It used to tremendously because things would break. And now nothing breaks. Everything is just, it's a very passive system, which is what I wanted. Oh yeah. Thank you. So it's a super passive system. And the nice thing is my family doesn't actually know what they're missing. Like my husband would, if he knew that if all of our locks were compatible, he could turn off all of our locks just by saying good night, Madam A, he would be really pissed, but he doesn't know that. So he doesn't know what he doesn't know.
If you have
I look at all of this systems, and it reminds me of, when 10 years ago, I guess we can go back as far as 10 years ago when you had the AV system for watching television, your home theater in a box and whatnot. And you had the cable box and you had the TV. So you had 3 different remotes right there. With this smart home stuff, it seems like at one point in time, at least for the longest for me anyway, it seems like anytime I started to look into it, seems like it was just bringing back that scenario of I needed a remote for this and I needed a remote for that. And it just said, I'll pass.
I don't use apps. So I am almost the only apps I use are the Ecobee because I didn't set it up through the Amazon. And there's actually no reason for that. Just I didn't. And then the Nanoleaf simply because I like using, there's like dozens of recipes that you can have on your different Nanoleaf panels. And I just never remember the names of them. So, but everything else is voice or buttons. And I have a lot more buttons than you might. Voice buttons or automations. So I actually have probably 6 or 7 buttons that I just have placed to control like connected lights around my house that are more convenient than the light switches.
It's like Donald Trump's Coke button.
Yes, except
nobody knows what it does, but you do.
Yes. Well, no other. I mean, my husband knows what it does. And we have like, for example, a button that calls my daughter down, like on our kitchen. It controls her lights on and off because she hated when we would drop in on her using the Echo. She's like, I don't like that. And I was like, that's fair. So then we just set up her lights with a little the Lutron light switch, and then the Pico remote, and you just toggle the lights on and off real fast. It works like a charm.
It was the daughter eye rolling button. Oh no, they want me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to go off Ant's question though, is that so you don't have 3 remotes, but you have 2 different systems, Amazon and Google. Do you forget which system to ask for what? So the lights are Amazon, but the door is Google?
No, everything's dual setup. So everything is dual setup that can be dual setup. And, there's it also, just so y'all know, there's a lot of stuff in there that isn't connected. So like my fridge actually could be connected to the internet, but it's not. My bed could be connected to the internet, but it's not. I've got my sink faucet.
But why aren't they connected?
Yeah. I didn't see any value. Like it was, there's no need to have that app on my phone. And the use case is so not compelling to me. And in the case of my sink, the use case is compelling, but I don't have an outlet yet under the sink. One day that might be connected.
I could see the use case for the sink with leaks and things like that.
It's actually just sense. To tell Madam A to fill my pot with 4 cups of water.
Wow.
It's a handy thing. You don't have to get out your measuring cups. You could just be like, so, Madam A, I actually miss that aspect of my connected sink, believe it or not. In my devices, most of them aren't smart. They're mostly remote control. The smarts are the automations I build. The 2 devices that are the smartest, maybe I would say the devices that are the smartest are actually the most boring ones. So like except for the June oven, which is totally smart and I love it. And y'all have all heard about it.
And you bought 2 of them.
I've bought 2 of them. I love them. Actually, I bought like so many because I gave them as gifts to people I love. But,
wow, aren't you generous? Oh,
it was my parents. They do a lot for me. But let's see. What was I going to say? Oh, the fin is really smart because it's looking for leaks all the time and it can tell where they are. So that's actually really smart and it's really non-intrusive.
Right.
The Aquanta is really smart and non-intrusive. But most of the other, I mean, like how really can a light bulb be smart? The Apple's circadian, or what do they call it? It's not, oh gosh. They have a circadian rhythm kind of lighting thing, adaptive lighting.
That's a good idea.
It is, and it works
so.
really well. But you wouldn't like it, like, because in your studio, for example, you need to control those lights, right? But in your house, it's really nice, and it just like kind of cycles through the day. I don't know.
Now, what are you using as a primary command center, if you will? People listening to This Week in Google, they may or may not know we have another show called Smart Tech Today, which airs on Thursdays, just before my show, Hands on Photography.
Aired at 1 o'clock. Plugs, sir.
And they talk a lot about these types of devices, and Mr. Matt Casanelli uses shortcuts with this iPad to handle a lot of this stuff. What is your command center, if you will?
My command center is usually, it's both Google and Madam A. So I set up the routines in those hubs. And then that's how I control most of these. They act as my hubs. So, you know, I've used Homebridge, I've used OpenHab, I've used SmartThings, I've used a bunch of them.
Right. That's what he was saying.
Yeah, I was like, that's what Micah loves.
Yeah.
And that Homebridge ties all your Apple stuff to your non-Apple stuff that's not HomeKit supported and allows you to control all that. And that's all really great. I just got so tired of spending so much time reconnecting things that fell off or tweaking, you know, if I bring in a new light or I move a light bulb to someplace else, you know, you've got to go spend all this time to rejigger it. And I'm just waiting for Matter in ways for that to be easier and less manual on me as the administrator.
Was CHP or CHIP or whatever it's called, was that like late 2019 when this hit the news?
CHIP was announced 2019. It became Matter earlier this year. So those are the same project.
Okay.
And yeah.
And I struggled back then trying to understand it and still struggling now.
Yeah.
It's okay. Hopefully you don't
when
have
Matter comes out, is there anything
to
to
be that
replace
smart
from what you have now?
Yes.
What would you
when
replace?
Matter comes out, I'm swapping out my door locks for Matter compliant locks.
Right.
I'm hopeful that my Philips Hue lights will be Matter compliant. I'm super hopeful, y'all, that my Lutron stuff is Matter compliant, especially because it's in the walls. I think my Google hubs are, next week is Amazon's Madam A live event. So I'm hoping we'll hear about Madam A and Amazon Echo and Matter. Yeah, I know. It's awkward. I just don't want to say her name. It's so rude. So I'm hopeful we'll see that, you know, on some things. I don't have a lot of cameras, so, you know, Matter doesn't work with cameras, so I'm not going to be dealing with a lot of that. And I'm also hopeful for things like sidewalk, because if I had my druthers, I would be putting, you know, sidewalk compliant sensors throughout my yard and garden and tie that into my sprinklers, for example, or my faucet timers, for example. So, you know, there's a lot I want to do. I just can't do it yet I'm just not willing to spend that much time anymore on it.
I think for me, the most automation that I want would be just lights popping on and off when I either enter the room or leave the room and stuff like that. I guess I'm just too much of a control freak and just don't quite trust this technology just yet to get it right for me. Because again, all I can think about is just the battles that I had with remote controls over the years. And then finally, Logitech and its Harmony remotes really did help and just unify everything for me. But now that's going away.
They killed it.
Yeah.
I will say, Ant, I give it another year. Check out some of the Matter stuff. I think things like the good night routines are really nice. Like I wrote in my post, I have 7 doors leading to the outside in my house. So being able to build a routine that would, 4 of my doors are sliding patio doors. There's no way I can automate that. But, you know, being able to lock all your doors at night instead of going around physically and checking them is actually a really nice thing. And there's lots of things that are going to be better. And then we're also like, there's actually a story about Amazon going for radar sensors. Things like RF sensing are going to be really big for adding person detection and proximity detection inside the home. And that's going to do things like when you walk in the house, your air conditioner will know where you are and could theoretically cool those areas. Your lights, like you said, would come on and off in a much better, and they could be personalized to you. Things like in emergency situations, your house could say, oh, shoot, Ant's on the ground and it's in the middle of the living room. That's super weird. Let's call his wife.
Right. Second time you've had us walk over Ant's bodies in the show, but we'll leave it.
That is true. Sorry, Ant. I'm just taking you down this week.
First time was an Ant wanted something to drink, otherwise he'd collapse.
Right.
So there's 2 other stories, 2 other Stacey-ish stories I'd love to get quick hits on to educate me. One is Ray Ozzie's Blues Wireless. Raises $22 million. Money raises a big deal, but he wants 5G in everything. Do you buy that?
So his 5G. This is a stupid headline. Who wrote this headline? Is this the Verge?
Somebody at Axios.
Oh,
Axios.
Was that Ina?
Yeah.
I can't see it.
Okay. He wants to add NB-IoT to everything and Cat M1, which is technically LTE. Eventually they might have 5G, but this is for low. This is a startup. It's actually not a bad idea. It's a good startup, but they want to add cellular to everything. And they're talking on their product roadmap about eventually adding like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth too. So the point is today's product offers a radio that is easy to connect to the internet. It comes pre-certified, and it also comes with 0.5 gigabyte of data. So 500 megabytes of data over 10 years. So you buy this and you get all of that. So remember the first Kindle, and we were all like, oh my God, the first Kindle, and you don't have a subscription with it. You just download as many books as you want because it was all built in. This is kind of the promise that this device has. You could just buy a device. You don't have to pay any data subscriptions, but you're going to get, you know, NB-IoT, which is really low data rates, or you're going to get Cat M, which is slightly faster, like slightly greater data rates. But you're going to get a guaranteed 0.5 gig for 10 years, which is cool because you can anticipate how much that's going to cost when you're building and pricing the device.
So, yeah, but by the way, so I when I got my CPAP torture machine, I didn't realize so I have that. I have that tortures me every night. And I had it next to the clock radio because I'm so old. I actually still have a clock radio.
I have a clock radio.
I still have a clock radio.
I do too. I love it.
Quaint. Oh, you do too. Oh, okay. So here's the problem. It was making that horrible 3G noise. Because the CPAP is reporting in on you to HQ. You have to use it 4 hours a night, or else the cops come and glue it to your face or something.
Okay, your insurance provider won't cover it, but go on.
That's what it is. Yes, you're right. But I tend to be paranoid about this. So I now had to move the clock radio somewhere else. My wife thinks it's ugly as hell. Why am I doing this? Because otherwise it would keep me up all night going doing it. So there's cellular and things you don't even know. I had no idea it was in that.
Wow.
But the other story, I did. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was like, I feel like they should tell you there's a cellular radio in there that's reporting your data back to somebody.
Yeah.
That feels like something that should be part of the rules. Okay. What's your other story?
The Amazon basically acquired Facebook's satellite internet team.
Oh, the project.
Did you see that story?
Is it, how do you say it? Kuiper?
Yeah. Kuiper, I think. Right now,
I only read it in science fiction. I know what the Kuiper belt is, but I don't know how to say it out loud.
Chat room, are we saying is it Kuiper or Cooper? Tomato.
Help us.
Yeah.
Help us, people who speak to other people.
I just know geekwire.com.
Amazon's been doing a lot with satellite internet in space. Satellite internet for IoT. Okay, Scooter X is telling us it's Keeper.
Well, that's the German pronunciation.
That didn't help Scooter X.
I was like, I need a phonetic.
Do it phonetically.
Pronunciation.
Like Ray Kaiser. Is that what you're saying here? Kuiper.
Kai as in guy.
Guy as in guy. Kuiper.
Okay, Kuiper belt.
Thank you.
Thank you. I knew someone would know. Come on. Okay, sorry. The Kuiper project, Facebook, I guess, is not really keen on providing internet anymore. They're just, I don't know.
They were going to do all kinds of things. They had huge winged planes that were going to fly forever and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, with their crazy laser sights. It's bonkers. Talk about research project. Anyway, Amazon's, they're actually keen on doing this as part of their IoT efforts, as part of their, we're going to see Amazon getting into internet IoT connectivity in a big way. With Sidewalk, with Kuiper. So this makes a lot of sense because they saw their problem with they realized, I don't have a phone. That sucks. And they're coming up against the carriers on things. And if they can offer, God help me for saying this, an end-to-end solution, it'll be great.
Well, it was interesting. You remind me with Facebook's. This is something that aeronautical ant might enjoy. Of course, they had a plane that was solar powered and battery powered, so it would stay up doing internet connectivity from the sky, and they stopped that. But I just saw a story before we went on. United Airlines is putting in an order for 100 electric planes.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I don't want to go circling in that.
Well, you won't be. It's all short range stuff, so it makes total sense from a cost.
That's
standpoint.
for here on Earth.
250-mile range. I know, but it's I'm in Newark, so we get delayed all the time. It makes me nervous. We're going to circle. Our little battery's going down. Oh no!
Flight control when you're in the air and you're in danger of crashing, they're gonna let you land first.
Yeah,
it's a triage thing.
Yeah, protocols, right? Yeah,
they've already thought of that, Jeff.
It's one of those things of they could spend so much money placing orders with the other manufacturers and have all that other built-in cost with fuel and so forth. And this is just something that's going to be more cost effective for the short range flights.
This is a really dumb question. It won't be any quieter, right? Because it's the propeller that makes noise, or is it actually the engine that makes the noise on a prop plane?
I can't answer that. Don't know.
It's not a prop plane, is it?
These thought
are prop planes.
That one was.
That's okay. How would you do a jet?
I think I'm thinking of a different thing.
Right. So
I don't know if you can do.
Someone just got money for an electric jet.
Really?
Like 2 months ago.
Really?
Hold on. Are these not jets? 200 electric air. Sweden's Heart Aerospace?
I thought the ones from United were props, like turboprop.
Picture they have, which is an artist's conception, is a prop. Now, it could just be that the newspaper screwed it up.
The
ES-19 electric plane is a four prop.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I've got the name of the... Oh, it's a 19-seat turboprop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
Yeah,
I lied to you.
This is 19 seat. This is Sweden Heart Aerospace. Yeah.
Okay, this is the same thing. Well, okay, I think this is just
a thing that goes around, Stacey.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Can't be a jet.
No, I'm looking at the picture associated with the story, and it looks like a plane. So I'm like,
right.
Okay, ignore me.
It is pretty cool. I got to admit, it's pretty cool.
Well, and I don't know about you, but I know like in Sweden, there's a group of like a rising number of people who don't want to fly because of the emissions associated with it. They've got some, it's not a German word, it's a Swedish word for it, but for people who like have decided not to travel for business because of their emissions. So I wonder if this is a way, obviously this won't address all of it, but to start addressing that if there's a big market for that.
Yeah, I think I saw, Stacey, that Germany was considering outlawing domestic flights.
Good God.
Wait, what?
That would be rather extreme. Yes, German Greens want to. And the Greens, well, until not long ago, the Greens looked like they were going to win the election in Germany. Now it looks like the Conservatives will. But yeah, German Greens want to ban domestic flights by 2035. You have to take the train.
Wow. That's intense. See, but if you had these smaller flights, you could go from, I don't know, Berlin to Saxony. I don't know how far these things are. And, but, it is a smaller country. They do have good train infrastructure. I mean, here you'd have to take a Greyhound, and that would be dire.
Yeah. I was going to say, would it really be that bad over there for them to deal with trains versus?
It's longer than you think to take a train ride. Let's see, a train ride.
Well, yeah, I know it's going to be longer and slower. I get that, but again, if you think about, I believe it was just this past Sunday on This Week in Tech, Boss Man was talking about just cars and how they're pretty much destroying us. And if it's a way to save the planet, is it worth it just having an extra hour or two,
Well, and Jeff, did you ever take the Acela?
Well,
I mean, so when I was in New York, I would take the train to I covered New Jersey and Philadelphia, and I would take the train there or down to DC all the time rather than fly
because it was just which is a 5 hour. But so Hamburg to Munich is 8.5 hours
on a train versus flying. Okay,
that's a
Well,
that's a bit.
Well, what would it be flying? Ask Google.
60 minutes.
Okay, so 60 minutes plus 2, let's say 3 hours just for. So it's half.
All the hoo-ha around it, right?
Yeah.
Let's hour and a half. That's what's including hoo-ha. Hour 15 minutes including hoo-ha. Yeah, Lufthansa.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there that'll do some type of analysis to help break this stuff down and maybe even put more infrastructure in place to make it more feasible. Who knows?
I would love it. I'd like train time.
Interest in flying? I've never asked you this. You obviously love it. Did it start with any particular thing?
It's just airplanes. I've always been fascinated with just the fact that something that big can fly. Birds fly, people can't fly, but this massive piece of equipment just goes across the sky with ease. So I've always sort of just been fascinated with that.
Wow.
And I wanted to be a pilot, and quite frankly, one day I may still try to be a pilot.
Well, the great thing where you are, and you have to have a lot of wine to do this, and I've done it, is to go take glider flights.
I would do that. If given opportunity, I would do that.
Wait, after you drank the wine?
Oh, yeah.
I don't need
I didn't fly it. I just sat in it.
Oh, I was like, Jeff.
Let's see how this goes. No. I just with my girlfriend at the time. This is many, many, many years ago. I'm older and chickener now. This was when I was one of San Francisco's 100 most eligible bachelors. I'll have you know.
Oh well,
went up to the wine country. That's what you do. You go, you want to impress. You go to the wine country. It's the greatest thing to do, right? And then what do you do once you're there after you have the wine? You get in a glider.
See, I thought it was the hot air balloons here, and I didn't know anything about gliders.
No, I will not do that. I will not.
Why not?
That's like a bridge. That's. I'm okay if I'm enclosed. But I can look over the edge of not just even thinking about it. My palms are dripping. No, I won't do that.
Interesting. No, I've seriously considered being a pilot, and in my brain, it would happen, the years right when the youngest hardhead gets ready to graduate high school. That was in my brain, was to say, okay, I want to give this a shot and try it out. And everybody that I've spoken to about it have said, just go for it. Yeah, the family's been like, yeah, go for it, dude, because you're always staring at planes. You're always watching YouTube with airplanes. You're always at the airplane overlook. Why not? You know more about these planes and yada, yada. So
have you ever been in a glider, Ant?
Have not.
What's amazing about it? Stacey, have you ever been in one?
I've been in a glider, yes.
Isn't it amazing when they release it and suddenly all you hear is wind?
You're like silent up there. I mean, it's not really silent, but it feels silent. You're like, what is happening?
The closest I got to that, the closest I got to a glider was the, I've just drawn a blank on it. It's a little passenger plane that you could buy and literally park in your garage. It's an amphibious plane. A-10, I believe is what it's called. Icon Airplane. And I got to fly on one of those with Tech Republic to write about it. And she cut everything off while we were in the air. And it was amazing how quiet it was. It was just to be flying around.
Only the sound of you screaming.
Yeah, this is what the end sounds like. Yeah.
It was amazing just to be up there and to be in that particular seat, because you're in the cockpit of this thing and it's small. And so everything is pretty daggum intimate between you and the machine and the outdoors. But yeah, that was, I love that experience. I'd do it again.
Oof. So I thought of you today, and some different subject. I thought of you today. I was driving around doing errands, and I had on a Bertelsmann investment fund. They do these events. They had one today about NFTs. I thought, finally, maybe somebody can finally explain this to me so I can understand it. We're looking at the business of NFTs. They had a neat company there. Have you heard of Infinite Objects?
I have.
Where you can buy the NFT, but it also you print it onto the device that you put up that has it on it, so that for dummies like me, it feels a lot more tangible. Oh, that's what I bought. Have you heard of this one, Stacey?
That's all it is.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Way ahead of me. I thought it was cool. I thought it was nice because it was for dummies like me. I guess I'm too dumb. It's all right. All right. That was nice.
NFTs are still pretty daggum niche right now. Some folks are still putting items out there to be purchased via an auction, and most of it is going towards charity. I haven't seen a lot of people putting it out there the same way they would put prints out, at least with the same amount of effort. But there are some that are selling things just as if they would sell prints. But most of the NFT stuff that I see tends to lean more towards the celebrities and putting it towards some type of fundraiser for an auction or for a charity or something like that.
So they also showed there was a different use today, and I can't remember which company it was, but it's the company. It's the company that runs a lot of the reality shows like America's Got Talent and those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And so they had a Neil Gaiman series, a superheroes of mythology fight superheroes of cartoons fight superheroes of business and technology, right? So they had the show and they had the actors and they made collectible NFTs. It struck me rather like the little stuffed animals gone geeky. What'd you call those things?
Like
that
Funko
have
Pops?
Yeah.
Like Beanie Babies?
Or Funko
Beanie
Pops?
Babies, thank you. Yeah, I got a whole bin. Anybody want any Beanie Babies? We got them. They're going to be really valuable someday. I think NFTs are electronic Beanie Babies. They kind of like that. Well, that's what they're doing, right? So they're saying, well, we create a scarcity. They cost between $50 and $100, and we make only 100 or 200 of them. And your kids come begging you to say, I really want the Voltron, I'm making this up, NFT. And then you own it and other people don't, but then they can keep on spitting them out and spitting them out and spitting them out. It's like Beanie Babies.
You know, but at least with the NFT, they can't spit out the exact same thing over and over.
Well, they could. They're doing 50 of them. They're limiting the number.
Well, okay. If they're doing a lot,
that
that's a different story. Okay.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. A lot, it's 50 different addresses. You're right. But it can be 50 different addresses of the same thing, right?
Right. But I look at it the same way I look at people collecting cars. A lot of these classic cars that people buy at these Mecum auctions and things like that, those cars aren't being created ever again, but they continue to go up and down in value because it's just art to some people.
I didn't mean to make this into Jeff NFT 101, but I will for a second. Because what the heck? I'm in charge today. Coming up.
Flash that moral panic sign.
Drink.
We'll have it. We'll find a reason. We'll find a reason very soon. I promise. Thank you. So you turn that into an NFT. I buy one of your beautiful photos in an NFT. The analogy is to art. I can put a print up on the wall. How do I display it? how do I know I have it? How do I show it off to myself or to others? How is it
blockchain?
No, you just have it. You have like a tablet. You're going to have some sort of Samsung has their Frame TV, which is the first Stadia is going to happen in September. This is like the AV installers, big smart home kind of group. You're going to see TVs and or digital picture frames that are designed to show what you've purchased. Those already exist in things that show digital art already exist. And so what's going to happen is you'll see more options there. So like Mural is one of those companies that offers one of these. I think they got bought by
Infinite Objects does too, in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. So so then you get these wall frame. Oh, Netgear bought Mural, MEURAL. And you'll just get these things and it will be lovely.
All right. Thank you very much. So speaking of giving me advice, I want to appreciate our dear friend, Kevin Toffel.
Yes.
Who wrote a post about our own dear show and moi on about Chromebooks. Because frankly, he's one of the nicest guys in the world, right, Stacey?
He is.
Oh, yeah. He's 100%
absolutely one of the nice guys in the world.
Nicest guy.
Basically, the undercurrent of this is, stop asking me this, Jarvis. I'm fed up with you asking me the best Chromebook. But he wrote it in that incredibly nice Kevin Toffel way, where he calmly took through. And the best analogy was, he said, here's why I can't tell you the best Chromebook. It's like walking into an auto dealer that has every car, and you say, what's the best car? And there isn't a right answer. And he would push you to the Maserati or the expensive car when all you want is the Honda. So you're right, Kevin. You're absolutely right. The thing is, I don't care about you advising everybody else about the best Chromebook. I just want you to advise me about the best Chromebook. That's all I need. I don't care about
I told Kevin that he should charge people for this. I'm like,
yes, I would pay. I would pay. It's like therapy. It's Chromebook therapy. I'll get on a couch.
I could book you an appointment with Kevin. I'll only take a small cut.
Yes, I like this.
I'm waiting for it. Usually he's on. Usually if he's watching, he'll pop up at some point in time on my chat program and be like, okay, Stacey. So I'm waiting for that to happen. He may not be watching. No,
I do love Kevin. And I also love that he wrote a whole post about hearing his name on the show, which was kind of great. So Kevin, thank you very much. I just wanted to say I'm still going to get a therapy session from you. So Facebook, we should probably do Facebook because Leo's not here.
We should.
So we can do it safely. Oh yeah. I think we can. Well, I think
are we going to talk about Cecilia's new book?
We should. Yes, we need to.
Okay. Yes, because I'm excited about this.
I've only read most of the CEO versus COO episode the Times ran, which really wasn't that revealing, I don't think. But they've been on a lot of shows and talking about it. The title again, I forget, is
An Ugly Truth: Inside Facebook's Battle for Domination.
Right. So you've been reading about it. Why don't you talk about it, Stacey? What does it pretend?
I don't know what it pretends because I did not have a galley copy in advance because I don't really read about Facebook. But yes, basically this shows a lot of your worst fears about Facebook. 100% true. Mark Zuckerberg, not the nice dude you might think he is. I don't know if anyone actually thought that. One of the things that came out, I think this was a Business Insider story. It talks about like 50-something employees had access. Facebook fired these employees, but they accessed data from the company's users without permission. So they basically are like, I work at Facebook. I can see everybody's stuff. Let's look up and find out things. So one of them.
But they got stopped, at least. They got fired, which is the good news.
They did get stopped and fired. But Ring had a similar problem with employees illegally, and not illegally, just accessing. I'm like, what is the word I want to look? Amorally accessing, user data. This is a real problem that I feel like companies, when you start, and you have access to this data, kind of like Uber in their God mode, and they used to show investors Beyonce's, driving around New York in a New
Right,
York.
I forgot about that. Right.
Yeah, all of these things are ripe. Like you need to build that into your company when you're building your company.
Yes.
Because right now, everybody has access to this. I'll put a little, what is the word? I'm going to drop a note right here on the Facebook thing just for a second, stick a pin in this and move really fast to the Justice Department. You know how the Trump Justice Department was seeking information on Washington Post reporters. Well, it turns out that a story was just released like in the last hour or two that they didn't just go after like ISPs trying to get this and Google and such. They also went after a security firm called Proofpoint trying to get access to, because Proofpoint handled the email security for this organization. So the Justice Department was like,
oh boy.
Oh, since you handle email security for the Washington Post, can you give us data on this? So I think it's really naive if you're building a company that's going to suck up a lot of user data to think that no one's going to come asking for that data or that your employees are going to abuse their ability to access that data. Right. So both of those things.
You've got to recognize the trust needed to have people's data, which is the problem with Facebook from day one, right? With the changing rules, the changing definitions of privacy, the changing circles of what is private and what is not, is that it affected trust.
Well, I would say I don't think it's trust. I think it's actually building the infrastructure in place that says people are going to abuse this and be jerks. So it's actually not trusting them, trusting them to be.
Oh, right,
jerks,
right.
I guess
the public is not going to trust you unless you build those things. Yes, we agree. We agree.
So, yeah.
And then there was another story just out right before we got on that Facebook has had the service for some time that they bought. One of my former students is one of the early employees there, which I'm suddenly forgetting the name of the company. The company that gives data about what people are doing. Oh, hell. You and I each put it on the rundown.
What's it not?
No, I can't get it. There's a service that Facebook bought to provide social data to journalists so that they could manage their social world around it. And it was controversial. This is line in 97. It was controversial within Facebook, it turns out, because like Kevin Roose from the New York Times would do this regular thing of the top 10 most seen Facebook things. Now, the problem is I've always had a problem, and Facebook has said they have a problem too, with the methodology here, because it might be the most popular 10 things that the service saw, but we have no idea how big that actually is. We have no idea what the actual impact is, which is to say that Facebook's not being transparent about that. They're being half transparent in a way that actually hurt Facebook. So there are people inside Facebook who said, well, this is hurting us. We shouldn't have this out there at all. But there are other people who say, well, let's be more transparent. Well, the more transparent lost. And this part of Facebook just got broken up and put under security of Facebook, which is, I think, too bad because it was a service to journalists. It was about transparency. Yeah, so it fits into the narrative of the book. Facebook just keeps being its own worst enemy.
That's because they're not trustworthy people. That's because you let this.
Say it.
No, I'm not.
She already got her big swinging Branson out earlier, so that she's used up.
Yeah, we're revering the wrong people in the quote tech world, and we're rewarding the wrong behaviors from a public best interest perspective, and
like going up into space. Yes.
Well, I was going to more self-aggrandizement and this idea that, I mean, if you think about social media, a lot of it is still about self-aggrandizement too. So
yep,
so you don't just mean the executives, you mean the users, you mean the total.
I mean everything. We're building ourselves into these. This is too deep for me, but yeah, it's the focus isn't on, I guess, a greater good, and I'm not saying you should always be responsible to the greater, but it's not on building a cohesive society. It's not actually on communication. It's on self-aggrandizement. And it's kind of the natural end to, rewarding capitalism for the last 50 years. But it's it's showing its age, it's hitting its roadblocks.
Yeah, it's not just capitalism, it's also media in the sense of celebrity too. You know, it's everybody with their 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Now everybody has their
What makes you say
right?
it's showing its age?
Well, we're kind of coming to the end of the line in the sense that, like, we're going to be thinking about, like, if you think about the end of privacy, that's kind of scary. What are we going to do to, like, stop that? If you think about, like, global warming and the planet, can we adjust our systems of consumption to deal with that? Can we, like, I had this realization about the IoT. I'm like, until we figure out that we don't want to use this data to get people to buy more stuff or to exploit people to work harder for less money, we can't actually solve any other problems. And unfortunately, that's where we're still focused. And we're going to it's showing its age in the sense that we're no longer to be able to solve the problems that this is causing. Think about things like, you know, we talk about the high cost of security, the high cost of addressing global warming and climate change. You know, I don't know. This is just me being sad.
Oh, Stacey's depressing herself. We have to get her happier here. I should have put the home story in here.
Let's talk about.
Let's stay on Facebook for another minute, because there are two other things that came out which fit the same narrative, right? So Facebook tries to have easy solutions to things. Now they're going to let groups anoint experts. And this is an effort to combat misinformation. Well, no, that's not how expertise is not a popularity contest. It's not the group deciding who the expert is. There's an external structure like universities, like licensing bodies, like critics that decide.
I don't know. What about your list of scientific COVID experts? That's kind of a
yes, it is. But I use the fact that they are at the Yale School of Public Health. They were not credentialed by me. They were separately credentialed.
You might find that this works.
It might be helpful in some cases, like in this Harry Potter world. Here is the ultimate Harry Potter fan who knows more about Harry Potter than everybody else, right? So it's kind of a Wikipedia expertise sense. Yes, I salute that. I do, absolutely. But I also fear that somebody can just go and start a vaccination group and declare the craziest person in it to be the expert. So
what about
the values
expertise?
Like,
and I don't know how to say her name. Zeynep Tufekci?
Yes.
I know she's a professor or
sociologist.
She's a sociologist and an associate professor, but she became an expert on COVID doing the actual reading. And I mean, I would say I wouldn't necessarily expect her to be a COVID expert, but she popped up and was able to do it.
Yeah, I'm certainly saying it's possible. Journalists bone up on topics.
I feel like I'm an expert on broadband.
You are. This is the tables are turned here. No,
I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from here. I'm like,
what I'm saying is I can see where it goes wrong. It goes to your earlier point. I can see where it goes wrong. That I start a vaccination group and I declare as experts the greatest nuts out there who say that vaccinations are bad for you. Right. So then now it becomes my expert against your expert, and they're both declared experts somewhere. And that is not necessarily the best structure to get at expertise. I believe strongly that the next generation of the net needs to be an expert-based network. So we agree. But the question is this the best way to get there? Is to just enable every group to declare their own experts in Facebook? I don't know. We disagree.
It is nice to be able to have the freedoms to create little groups like this and be able to have some conversations with like-minded people. It's nice to have those freedoms, but at the same time, it could also be detrimental if those groups become very, very big and end up getting some interesting, odd power and influence over other folks based on their views that may not quite be accurate, so this is just the slippery slope of the tools of social media. I know, Mr. Jarvis, you advocate for social media because of it's given a lot of voice to people that didn't have amplified voices, and I'm with you on that. But at the same time, there's a lot of people I wish would just be quiet on social media.
Yes, but the good thing about social media is you can stop. You can
Yes, you can always mute.
I'm so proud. I am blocked by Donald Trump Jr. and Piers Morgan. I'm very proud.
Wow.
And Frank Sinatra called you a bum.
Frank Sinatra called me a jerk. One more. So Zuckerberg, again, right before we got on the air quotes air, said that Facebook, I think in the next year and a half or something, is going to pay $1 billion to creators.
Yeah.
Ant Pruitt, creator, what do you think of that?
You know, I think that's a good start, but I think it's an uphill battle, because what exactly will Facebook and Instagram offer the creators that TikTok isn't already offering and then some, and that YouTube isn't already offering and then some? Yes, Facebook has how many billions of users, but people search and they end up on YouTube. They end up on Google or they end up on YouTube when it comes to things that they're looking for. And YouTubers know that. And they just stick to their guns and they're going to continue to roll with it. And if they are actually on TikTok, they're usually using TikTok to funnel those viewers back to their YouTube channels. I know several people that
where they make money.
Right. So $1 billion is a good start for Facebook, but I just don't know if it's going to make any difference here.
Stacey, would you take Facebook money?
Well, no, I would not take Facebook money, but I also, I mean, who's on Facebook to, I guess, let me think of it this way. Remember the pivot to video, and Facebook told all the journalists, hey, invest in video. I mean, $1 billion is nothing to these guys. So I take this about as seriously as I take the pivot to video, I guess, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a rug that can be pulled out from underneath you. So it's nothing to plan on.
It's a start. They can basically start in small, and they're probably meeting up with some of the big YouTubers or TikTokers as we speak to start going over the details of this. And you'll see some sort of soft little rollout, the same way we saw it with IGTV. But again, people were using IGTV to funnel back to their content on other platforms, you know?
Right. Yeah. I think the problem that Stacey raises with the pivot to video is that you've got to be able to plan on it. And the only way you can plan on it is if you understand the underlying economics. And are there aligned interests? Is everybody making money on this? So this is my share, right? The YouTube is that way. YouTube says, okay, we sold these ads and we're not going to tell you what the share is exactly, but you're getting a share. We're making money and you're making money at the same time. And that's how it operates. And with Facebook, it's more opaque, I think.
Yeah. Well, and you have to, the other thing is, all of these platforms, you have to build on the platform. Curse the end of the open web.
Yes, amen.
Now, okay. So Mr. Jarvis, I knew YouTube isn't necessarily disclosing exactly how much they earned on the ads for someone's video. But they do give the analytics as far as how much they're paying back to that creator each month in this little monthly report. You have a problem with them hiding those numbers that they put in their own pockets, considering that the platform is free to the user to upload?
No, I mean, it's no different from Apple and the Android App Store saying we're going to take 30%, or now we're going to take 15% and then 30% or whatever. Google for a long time didn't say what the percentage was. They're more transparent about it than they used to be. But it's not as simple as people make it out. It's so as a journalist, I had to learn business through the back door. And I remember when I became an executive, and I learned things like corporate allocations. Oh, that chair doesn't cost what you think it costs. You're going to look it up in the catalog and you're going to say that chair costs this much money. No. We're amortizing that chair back as a cost to corporate. And so what's profit to you? Depends on how much we charge you for that chair, Mr. Jarvis.
Right.
And how much we charge you for our corporate services and the cost of marketing and so on and so on and so on. So it's not really a simple calculation. to say, here's how Google profited from this YouTube video versus how Aunt Pruitt profited from that same video. So I give them that slack. However, again, it goes back to trust. The more they tell us, the more trust there'll be.
Yeah, that's fair. One
last Facebook story, which I want to mention, because I think quite highly.
You said this last one was the last one.
I lie. Don't you know this? I lie. I'm untrustworthy. Or you could say that I'm old and have an excuse for forgetting, unlike you, young Ms. Hickenbotham, who can't even remember last week what you published. So don't make fun of the old guy. What did I write about? What was that? What did I show last week on the show? The history is history. So Instacart just stole Fidji Simo as their CEO. That's a big loss to Facebook. Fidji was a president and superstar. She's only 35 years old. The CEO of Instacart moved up, and they grabbed the chance to get Fidji. She wants to be a CEO, and now she is. She was in charge of Blue, as they call it, the Facebook app. She's the one who made video as big as it was on Facebook. She's done product after product after product. She's been brilliant at this, and so it's a big loss to Facebook. Casey Newton, in his paid newsletters, which I get, had some reports from inside that Mark had gotten mad at, angry about losing engineering talent. They've been losing a lot of it in executive talent, and evidently got mad at Fidji, said one report, and then other people said, no, that's not the way that meeting occurred. But that he's frustrated about this loss, and this is a sizable loss in Fidji. I don't know if you ever watched her in Facebook presentations or not.
Never.
I don't cover Facebook.
Right. So you wouldn't
no idea.
Sorry. I'm like, unless they're talking about their servers, I don't talk to them.
Right.
Now, the story that I'm more interested in is something else you said there from the article was people are leaving. Well, why? Is there any allusion to anything that alludes to why these developers are leaving? Because Facebook is big, and Facebook is clearly making a lot of money
and paying a lot of money.
Why leave that gig?
This is the problem with the book. Is it's not hard for any large company to find people who left who are going to tell you, I'm so smart, I left, and here's why. Right? Okay. And I know when I've gotten unhappy at a job, I want everybody else to be as happy as I am and prove I'm right. And sometimes, no, I'm the unhappy one. I'm the grumpy one, as if you can imagine that. And they all have reasons to be happy. I'm out of favor, or I'm not getting to do what I want to do, or so on. It's really hard to judge a culture that way. I think there's obviously problems in Facebook, but some people are saying they left. One guy left over the issue of transparency in the story about we talked about a few minutes ago. Other people can leave because they're disappointed in the ethics of Facebook. I think that's perfectly plausible, but sometimes it's somebody got a better job, or it's hard to judge that, I think.
Yeah,
Stacey,
I guess I can see people leaving the company because of morals and things like that. They feel like Facebook should be doing better here and there socially and whatnot. I get that.
No one wants to work for the evil empire.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
I know a lot of people
like those black shiny helmets. Those things were pretty cool.
They got a whole starship they can use. I know people there who are some of the nicest, most morally driven people I know because they think they can fix it.
Right. Well, I would say to anybody again, they get lots. They just got a new privacy person, Jeff something.
Yeah.
But I will say, when you walk into those situations, you might buy the idea that you can fix it. And in about a year, maybe two, I bet we see this person leave.
Or you at least got to judge yourself and say, was I fooling myself, or did I make some progress here? I'm reminded of, I don't know if I told this story before. My sister is a Presbyterian minister, and I remember when she was in Princeton many years ago at a party, Jeb Stuart Magruder, who went to jail for Nixon and Watergate. I know you're both too young to know what that is, but I'm going to keep on going anyway.
I know what Watergate was. My goodness.
Okay, I'm joking. So he told the story of you'd be at work at the White House, and you spend all day killing Howard Hunt's 15 incredibly dangerous, stupid schemes. And you get home at night, you'd pour yourself your scotch and congratulate yourself. Boy, I killed 14 really crappy things today. And of course, the 15th was Watergate. right? It's the one that got through. And so it's all relative. You can say, wow, I got rid of a lot of bad stuff, but did you get rid of enough bad stuff? Did you create enough good stuff?
I think that's what the Trump people say, the people in the Trump, like the career politicians in the Trump administration. They're like, well, we killed a lot of crazy stuff.
And the person coming after me could have been worse. Don't we know?
Give me a little credit.
I want to tell one quick Instacart funny on myself here. So I love Instacart. Instacart has been a godsend to get food to my 95-year-old father in Florida so he wouldn't go out of the apartment. And so once a week or thereabouts, I call and I say, Pa, what do you need? Grapefruit. I know you need it every week, Pa. Come get grapefruit. I like those frozen pizzas you got me, the pepperoni ones, but the small ones, the big ones don't fit in the freezer. Got the small ones. Okay, fine. So we go through the list. I do all this. And it's routine. And I tell him, Pa, call me before you run out so I don't have to, because sometimes I'm ordering from Instacart and they don't have the pizzas and then he gets mad because they substituted something else. And I've got to make sure he's got enough pizzas and it works. So it's a whole Megillah here, right? Mm-hmm. But he called this week. I tried to call him last week on Wednesday and I'll let you know. Hey, sure. Yeah. Thursday, call him again. No, I'll let you know. Friday, he doesn't answer the phone. Friday night, he calls at 10 o'clock, waking up my wife. I need to talk to Jeff. I need groceries. Because he's obviously out of his pizza. So I go on Instacart and make it easy as pie. You can go to your previous orders and say, order that again. And when they don't have the regular crust pepperoni pizza, you can order the thin crust pepperoni pizza as an alternative, and they will substitute that automatically. It's a wonderful system.
Right.
Well, so what happened, obviously, the week before is they had substituted the bag of grapefruit for the individual grapefruits. And so when I ordered, I just clicked on whatever came last week. So I clicked on the bag. When I meant to order 7 grapefruits, I ended up ordering 7 bags of grapefruit.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy.
Which landed on my father's doorstep. And he calls in a panic. What do I do with all these grapefruit? Yeah. So that's my little tale on myself.
So
the grapefruit. Right. I bombarded my poor father with grapefruit. 7
Shame
bags
on you.
of grapefruit. So anyway, so why don't we? Leo is very smooth about how he does this. He kind of just takes a little moment and a breath, but I'm not smooth, and I like to mess him up every time anyway. So here's where, for those
I think
of you
just don't like to breathe. That's what I think. Jeff never pauses. You're too New York for the pause.
That's okay.
Problem with that?
We can take the little pause now.
You got a problem with that? We're going to take a little pause right now. And now we're going to play the trumpets.
The Google Changelog.
All right, guys, help me out on these stories because a lot of gaming in here, and I don't do games. So the first story is
Stacey's panicked look.
Yeah, I don't do it. I don't do it. I'm boring, I guess, but I don't do it. So Android 12 will let you play games before they finish downloading. Speaking of people who can't stand a little pause in life, can't they just wait 30 seconds? They've got huge bandwidth. The stuff comes so fast, you can download whole movies in the time it takes to breathe. And now you can't wait for it to download before you've got to start playing it. Really? This is a feature? Tell me, am I crazy here?
I mean, it just depends. If you're on a cellular network, it does take time, I guess. I don't know. Yes, this is great news.
You got to play this game?
Some people are. Some people are.
And think about the technical stuff happening behind the scenes. This could be good for like buffering or low data rate kind of places. This could be an interesting technological development. Although the first comment on the story is literally some dude who sounds just like you. How big of a hurry are we in?
I feel like Raymond's mother right now. What? You can't wait for a game? What's the problem here? So, all right. Well, that's big news to some people. You're not going to have to wait for the game. You're going to start playing immediately. All right. Now let's go on. Uh-huh. So Stadia, Google tries to attract Stadia publishers with better revenue sharing. This goes to our story before, right? So they all charge 30%. To your point, Ant, they are transparent about it. They say that's where it does work. It's 30% of the take you would take in. If you were doing this on your own, we take 30%. Now, because Stadia is, tell me if I'm wrong here, kind of a flop, they're going to reduce it.
You're not wrong, sir.
I'm not wrong for once. Are you playing Stadia games, Ant?
No, sir. I had the whole free trial and all of that, and for Pro and whatnot, and they sent this controller to me, and they sent this Chromecast Ultra, and I did it for about 3 days, and that's about it. It was pretty, but first off, I'm just not much into games like that, and secondly, the whole experience wasn't quite what I was used to, because you're doing it over the Chromecast Ultra, so you get the drop packets, and it's every now and then it's a little bit jittery, and you need that to be plugged in via Ethernet, and that wasn't something I was ready to do as far as running an Ethernet cable to my TV downstairs to play video games, and just no. But
Stacey, I don't think
another thing though is I didn't even know this conference was going on. This whole keynote from Google and gaming. I didn't even know this was going on. I think this happened Monday. Did you even know?
No, but I wouldn't. I would look at it and says game, and that's all I need to see. And I go on. And I'm not making fun of everybody who plays games. I'm actually jealous of you because you have a whole way to amuse yourself and enjoy something.
Yeah.
I just get nervous and I don't want to lose, or I don't know what am I figuring.
No, I used to play video games. I've never been a big time gamer or anything like that, but I used to play video games quite regularly. I used to spend at least 2 hours a night playing Call of Duty on PlayStation back in the day.
Even with that wasted youth, see what Ant has become. It's an inspiring story of how you can overcome
it was therapeutic. You know, it was therapeutic.
I was going to say, Jeff, you may not have games, but you have TikTok.
Yeah,
yes,
that's the thing.
Yes, I do. So, Stacey, I don't think I've ever actually heard. Are there gamers in your house, including you?
No, my daughter plays Minecraft and Star Stables, and those are it. I mean, I'll play board games.
Yeah, well, that's because that's.
And my husband has an Xbox. I think he plays hockey and sports console games. But
how often do you walk in on him, on Andrew, playing hockey?
Not often lately. I don't think the Xbox has been plugged in for a while. Oh, we did Just Dance on the Wii. That was fun.
That was yeah.
I remember doing all of that stuff, but it just it died down for me personally. I enjoyed it, but I just found other stuff to do. I have recently tried to start back playing Team Fortress on my computer here, but I'm still probably going to do that maybe 2 or 3 times a month, because right now when it's time for me to just sort of get away from the world and wind down or have my own little therapy sessions, there's other things I'd rather do. I'd rather be sitting in Lightroom trying to do some post-processing. I'd rather be watching something on YouTube. Yeah. I'd rather be, that's just me now.
I'd rather be researching Gutenberg.
My husband plays as a way to connect with my nephews. So they'll get together and play together.
That's legit. Yeah.
And see, I don't have that element anymore.
Any habit is legit, but that's an option.
I don't mean it's illegit to play the game. I'm just saying that's a good.
That's what I'm like. I'm like, okay, well, thank you, Jeff.
It's a good reason to waste your hours of your life. It's okay. It's okay. I'm joking, people. I'm just joking. Okay, don't at me. Don't at me. So Stadia, continuing this line of desperation, is created a toolkit to help bring over games from Windows. How exciting are Windows games? It just always struck me as a bit of a oxymoron. Fun Windows.
Just I play my video games on a Windows box.
I think a lot of it, like PC gaming's a thing, Jeff. And
it's big. It's big.
That's a real legit thing. Oh, okay. Hey, you know how miserable Google Workspace makes you and I, Jeff, because we have bifurcated Google accounts? Now, everyone in 5 countries can have that same experience for the low price of $7.99 a month.
Pay for it as an introductory price, which will go up to $9.95, I think, after that.
Yeah, I think it's yes. But I thought that was hilarious. I was like, oh, don't do it, y'all. Google's making Workspace, or is it Workspace?
Workspace.
Available that's this month's name. Yeah.
Yes, in Brazil, Canada, Japan, Mexico, and the US for individuals, which means you can have some premium features that the free one doesn't have, and that you'll get your own dedicated account that will screw you forever when trying to play with Google's stuff.
So I have Workspace, right? Mainly because I wanted my Buzz Machine domain.
I have
to be my main domain, right? That's why. But way back when, a good friend of mine and somebody who I worked with both at my company and when I worked at Advance and at the school. So I said, you want an email address? Sure, I'll take one. So he and his wife are the only other two people on my workspace. So I keep on paying for the corporate thing so I can have my old friend who I haven't talked to in 5 years still have his email. I probably need to email him and see if he answers it. It'll tell me whether I still need to keep paying for it or not. Maybe I can switch to $7.99 a month to be irritated for less. But on my Gmail, when I go into my Gmail, I'm going to be able to find out who's legit easier. We talked about this some time ago, but I think they're finally rolling it out. Is that Google is going to roll out authenticated company logos on email.
I've had that for a while, but yeah, they are also, if you use Gmail and want to schedule virtual meetings, they will let you respond RSVP to a meeting. Yes, I'm going. I'll be there in person, or I will be there virtually, which I think is kind of neat as someone who's worked remote since 2004.
Well, as somebody who wants to not go to the office very much, I mean, I'm going into school to teach. That's fine. I love the students, and it'll be better. But you're not dragging me into New York for a 1 hour meeting. We're doing that on Zoom now. You're there, that's fine. I'm coming in on the big screen. I'll be the big head in the room. I'm not driving in for a 1 hour meeting.
But that just seems to be the new cultural shift now, right?
Yes.
Yes, well, and I would.
Here. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that I think if you're going to have, I do think there's truth in if you have a virtual meeting, you should have almost all of your people be virtual, right? So, or like if you're going to have remote workers, then you treat everyone like a remote worker. And we did that at GigaOM, and it worked out really well. Like some days people would be in the office, but even the California people sometimes would work from home and attend whatever meetings we were having virtually, which made sense because 80% of the reporting staff actually worked not in California. And that kind of lessens any sort of drama over, oh, you're so far away, you must not, being a second-class citizen. And I will say, working for Fortune remotely, I was 100% a second-class citizen when I was hanging out like on the Polycom during the editorial meetings every day.
Can you move that closer to you? I can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Oh, it was so frustrating. It was me, like the London bureau chief, and then like one other person. And we would be on our Slack channel because there was a Slack channel for the editorial meeting, and it just sucked.
Yeah.
I was thinking more along the lines of just how everybody is saying, man, we just spent the last year in all of these virtual meetings trying to get stuff done that we would have done the previous year in person. And we were able to get it done, and we were able to get it done pretty much pain-free and more cost-effective and a little bit more efficient. So there's no point in bringing Mr. Jarvis into the city just for an hour, because we're going to knock it out with his webcam, and it's not going to change his brain just because he's in the city. He's still going to be able to talk about whatever it is that we need him to discuss over this virtual meeting. And I think that's just the big cultural shift that we're starting to see more and more. And I know there's a story about Google in the rundown, and they're reneging on remote work and so forth, but we'll get into that later, maybe.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. So Google is, on the one hand, capping Meet's formerly unlimited group video calls to an hour for free accounts. At the same time, with the story that Stacey mentioned either, but we'll sell you an account where we'll uncap it again.
Why not?
Right. Well, this is only for 3 or more people. So if you have 2 people, you can still talk for hours.
Oh, you can. Oh, okay. All right. So it's just, this is trying to
to
say you can't use this for companies anymore.
Yeah, why not?
Right.
That's
so if
fair.
you and your sister or BFF like spend all day on a Meet while you're working or something, I don't know, people do that. As long as you have only you and that one person, you're fine.
Oh, okay. Good. 2 more here. Google Lens is redesigning itself to go more towards screenshot over live view, which I guess I understand. You want both, obviously. You want to be able to say, what is that in a photo? But you also want to be able to point your phone at something and say, what's that?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I want both. So I hardly ever use Lens, but the few times that I've had to use it, I needed it, and I'm glad it was available to me. And one of those times was when I was in Shanghai, trying to figure out where to eat. I don't read that language, nothing was in English, and I needed to figure out what the heck that was. And it was really easy to just use Google Lens to pull my phone up and look at it, and it displayed, okay, this is beef, this is pork, and blah, blah, blah. Oh, and it was great.
I use Lens for QR codes. Is that?
Yeah, I've done that too for the here recently with things starting to open back up here in Sonoma County. There's the menus are all on the QR code. So yeah, I don't use Lens often, and the couple of times I had to use it, I'm glad I had it, especially in China. Because I went to a meeting. I didn't want to starve.
Of El País. In Spain once, and I'm sitting there as the dumb American who's the ugly American not speaking. I speak a little bit of German, but badly. It doesn't do a lot of Spain. And so I amused them because this is a couple of years ago. I would go up with my phone to the screen where they're putting PowerPoint and it would translate it for me. And that was great. It was amazing. Google Translate's just, you mentioned this the other week, Stacey. It's a miracle. It's not heralded enough what's happening with translation. It's just amazing.
I agree with you.
All right. So Stacey and I are agreeing like crazy today. It's just Leo who causes trouble, right?
That's no.
I know.
Something is going on in the atmosphere.
Something's in the water here. Stacey's. Jeff, I think you're being nicer because, I don't know what it is.
Well, I should be, if I follow Leo's example, I should be the devil's advocate, but that's what
I can't imagine you playing devil's advocate. Can you imagine?
No, I don't do well. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at it. No. So the last one, Chrome, I don't understand it anyway because it went up after I read the rundown. So I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Chrome will let you turn on an HTTPS first mode. Does anybody have any idea what that means? I don't.
I understood.
It means you only go to secure websites? Yeah.
Right. A default view of HTTPS versus HTTP. And if they pop up, if a site pops up that's not HTTPS, it has a banner at the top warning. And that's all set there by default.
Okay.
It's a good thing.
All right. Well, on that low key note, it's time for the end of the changelog.
Oh, there was kind of an interesting thing in this blog post Google wrote about the last issue, but I will not share it.
Please, go ahead.
Well, okay, we did end the changelog, but they said that when only 11% of people knew what the little lock in the corner meant for HTTPS sites, and instead users thought it meant the whole site was trustworthy, as opposed to the server
that's
connection.
A problem.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons. So they said they were going to re-examine that lock icon because people think of it in a totally different way. I just thought that was kind of interesting. I'm like, oh, I could see where they got that, but also that's terrible for people.
But they don't know. You can only go on.
Oh yeah, no, I get why they would be like, oh, that's a secure thing. I must be in a secure place, but
right. Well, it's like the stupidity of the early days. I actually had a librarian tell students that if it said .edu or .org, you could trust it, right? It's the same kind of idiocy. Yeah, right. You don't want that. We should go to the story that you mentioned, Ant, which is that the Google employees are mad about the search giants' hypocritical remote work policies. It doesn't help if your boss has said, well, you all go in the office, but I'm going to call in from New Zealand.
Well, okay, so I know Urs Hotzel, and I can't imagine him being great with employees anyway. I know he's not a jerk. No, he's not a jerk. He's just, he thinks like 80 times faster than you, and he's not impatient, but it's not like he's patient either. He's just a very smart man who I don't think comes to everybody else's level very often. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'd want to work in the office with him. I don't know how much value he brings.
Right.
I read this.
I think it's going to happen. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I read this and all I could think about is just the fact that some people, they went through the period of, oh my gosh, I have to work from home now because it was something new, and with the whole pandemic and just all of the readjustment that took, it was pretty tough on people. And then it got to a point of, okay, I think I got the hang of this. And then it got to the point of, well, dang, I think I like this. I like working at home.
And we're better off as a company too, as you said a minute ago.
Right. So it's, I think people are sort of pushing back on going back to work because, you know what, it seems to work for them. I was talking to Queen Pruitt just the other day about this because for the longest, my family members in Carolina, when I actually was able to talk to them, they all just would call me up at random times in the day because they knew I was working from home. And I'm thinking, well, I'm still working, but people just assume because you work from home, you're not working or you're not as busy or not as focused or anything like that. So I think companies are trying to fight a little bit of that stuff too, because they just assume, all right, you're at home, there's nowhere you're as focused as you would be here in the office. And I think that's baloney. I've been working at home for most of my adult life, professional life. And I remember when it all started, it was because I would send emails late in the night or whatever to my superiors because I'm a horrible sleeper. And I figured since I'm awake, I might as well do something productive, and I would work. And they were like, well, you know what? Why are you sending me these things now? And I said, because when I'm here, I can't get to all of that because there's too many other distractions and things getting in the way that pushes some of my work down. Not that I was just being lazy or anything, but it's just I just had too many distractions. And if I'm home, I can focus more and be way more effective. And they pretty much said, okay, well, let's have you stay home. And that was it. And I stayed home and just continued to get a whole lot more done. And it just works for me.
I don't want to put you on the spot, Ant, which I'm about to do, obviously, but I'm saying that. Is it going to be an adjustment coming back to the studio?
It is a bit of an adjustment for me. Because when all of this went down with us, and there was a lot of trepidation, but I remember saying quite openly, I'm used to this. I've been creating content by myself for a very, very long time. So I already had lighting and stuff like that. It was no big deal. But at the same time, when I am in the studio with our other co-hosts, Mr. Sargent and Mr. Howell, we have our host office, but the majority of the time we're in there with headphones on and we're focused. We're working. I see Mr. Sargent sitting in front of me, but I don't have anything to say to him because I'm busy. He's busy. Mr. Howell is usually sitting right there and he's busy. So it's still a quiet environment that I'm used to that allows me to just sit down and do what I need to do.
I remember when the managing editor of the San Francisco Examiner yelled at me one day because I was nosy as hell and always looking around in the office and gossiping. And he said, God damn it, Jarvis, I pay you to be the town crier, not the office crier. Because I was a gossip. I like seeing what was going on. Who's talking to who?
All reporters are super
exactly.
chatty. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I would never work when I was in.
I had a superior at one of my previous jobs that came into town to visit me and visit the team, and all the whole bureaucratic stuff or whatever. And the rest of the office had no idea my superior was in town. But he was sitting next to me at another desk. People just assumed he was another vendor, contractor, or whatever. And all day long, people are walking up to my desk, bringing me this issue, that issue, and asking me how to do this and whatever. And I did it in addition to my regular work. And at the end of the day, that superior was like, how do you get anything done? I said, I don't when I'm here.
Yeah. It's the price you pay. All right, so let's have kind of a lightning round of some quick stuff, and then we'll go toward the close here. Super Mario 64 sells for unopened $1.56 million at auction.
That's just people buying their childhood.
Yep. It's you make fun of an NFT, you make fun of that, right?
Exactly. It's in the same vein.
Whatever works for you.
So the line that everybody wrote today, that fleets are fleeting. Twitter's fleets are dead. They're gone. They're away. Or soon to be, I guess. Anybody surprised by that?
No, but it's disappointing considering I just did 2 fleets like 2 days ago. But that's the first time I've done them in a very long time too. So there's that.
I never made one.
Yeah,
Did you make
I just
one,
never. I made a couple, but I just never. I don't know.
Yours were entertaining though, Miss Stacey.
They were all my dog. Basically, fleets were where you could hang out with my dog.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, they were good. But it's the same with Facebook stories. I don't get Facebook stories. So Facebook's like, so-and-so just added to their story. Yeah, it's a photo. I don't get it. I was thinking that in a way, it's one of the reasons I respect what Jack's doing at Twitter these days, just because, yeah, okay, fine. We tried to copy everybody and it was dumb, and so we're stopping it. And I think that trying to copy everybody else is just a really stupid strategic way to go. Try to outdo somebody else with something new for them to copy, but that's not what happens. Twitter also announced that they're going to let you in iOS edit after the fact who can reply to your tweets. Gee, that tweet didn't go the way I thought it would. I want to change that. I think that's smart. I think that's good.
I still wish we had edit mode in Twitter in general. Brother. But at the same time, we probably won't get it. Someone brought up a good point. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think we would miss it if we got edit mode, because it would give us that's our number one complaint about Twitter. So if they gave it to us, what else would we complain about? We're all
They got rid of the
unified
fail
behind
whale,
this.
and they had to have something else.
Yeah. Sorry, Ed.
No, it's someone brought up a point of if we had this feature, there's the potential of the narrative being changed with the tweet. People are going to take the original tweet and it's like, oh crap, I read this way. And now it's another version. It totally changes it because they removed the word and this and that. And I get it. I guess that could stir up a lot of misinformation some kind of way. So especially with screenshots and things like that. So who knows?
So Jammer B, I think I messed up the link here, but line 125, see if you can get the Twitter link working and scroll to the top. Marissa Maciel, I'm guessing, I don't know, standard tuber, was in love with a stock photo couple, and she wants to write a screenplay. Oh no, it doesn't work. Generally, if you cut and paste the actual Twitter link, it's one of those cases where I changed to a better link, and it has the old link in there. Bar. Yeah, so go to the, I don't know why they do that. I should have warned you, Jeremy. I'm sorry. I thought I had. I didn't. I knew better. This is where Leo realizes that you just skip it and keep going because it's going to drag down the show. It's not, you know what? The problem is after waiting, it's rarely worth the wait. So maybe we should skip anyway.
Depends on the story.
Depends on the story. It's a fun story, but it's not. I can live with that. Smart Garage. That kind of, you're moving right along. Smart Garage struck me as kind of a silly story in the quick takes. But then I thought about that. I read the story and I thought, no, garages are stupid. If I go to parking garages, and so what if you only need 5 minutes, or you can change the pricing based on traffic and need, or it can perform other services for you. Becomes interesting.
So they've been talking about this forever, and really it has not come to fruition because the software behind it's super hard, and cities don't want to pay an ongoing subscription for something in a parking garage. And this is where, because there's no unifying technology that every car has. So there's a lot of things working against this concept. It's a concept everyone loves, but it's freaking hard. And also, if you don't pay your bills, your parking garage suddenly becomes stupid and everyone hates it. Livy.
All right. So never mind. Moving right along, because that's never going to happen. That's basically what we're saying here. Amazon is naming new warehouse robots after Muppets, as they say, what could go wrong? Ernie killed me.
They're doing some Muppet washing.
Yeah. Yes. I often said that Google thinks, and all the platforms think of themselves as Snuffleupagus, as cuddly big monsters, but everybody else just sees them as monsters. So maybe this is their effort.
Just an attempt.
All right. So I'm headed down here. If there's anything else you guys see, under other, I was fascinated by this on lines 184, 186, which I guess we're also talked about on Twit. If we start with 184, Jennifer B, AI voice actors, and not that we didn't know this could happen. Obviously, a lot of synthetic speech is good already, but now it starts to be so good, especially for commercials and those kinds of efforts. You can start to imagine hiring somebody to create the fake voice, and it's been talked about too with actors themselves. But I think that if you want to just play one or two samples there, Jimmer, otherwise known as John. Sorry.
The beauty and scary thing on this is it could save folks a lot of money, but the scary part is that the dangerous stuff that could be done with it, because people could be so nefarious and say, was it deep fakes? Use it like deep fakes.
Yep.
Deep fakes for voice.
Yeah.
I did have someone train an AI to write like me, and I found that super creative or super creepy. He didn't ask my permission. He just told me afterwards that he did it.
That part is creepy.
Playing around.
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, I hate the idea that, I mean, there's the obvious ego blow, like, oh my gosh, my writing can be mimicked by a machine. But then there's also then how could I prove, like, I write a lot. I don't remember everything I write. So someone could come in and be like, you wrote
that's
this.
For sure you don't. Yeah, we learned that this
I know,
week.
exactly. See? So if you think about it that way, you're like, wow, what if someone could write like you and then write things that you didn't write? And you would be like, well, it does sound like me. Super gaslighting right there. Okay, that's it.
I kind of do the same thing. Right? Did I really write that? Is that me? I was once in a small newspaper office with the executives, and we had kind of a digital advisory board meeting. We were talking, this is some years ago, we were talking about the efforts to write news copy, especially sports copy. And there was a company to actually talk to do this, right? To take formatted news, financial stories, sports stories, and turn out stories. And 2 desks away was the young whippersnapper sports reporter. And I'm trying to put myself in his head thinking, oh, crap, I'm going to lose my job. They're right over there talking about losing my job. So I finally just kind of said, hey, Joe, what do you think about that? He said, thank goodness I don't have to write all those boring high school sports stories. I could go off instead and get boring jock quotes. But anyway, where were we?
It's true. It's like those market stories I had to learn to write. God, those sucked.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So line 186, John, I found this fascinating. And you guys talked about it on Twitter already before. But AI was taught to speak other languages. And then they tried to have it speak English. And it speaks English with the accent you would expect from a person speaking that language, which just blows my mind.
That's crazy, right?
Isn't that great? So if you look at somebody from Denmark, how you doing there, John? So if you go, good. So this is the Netherlands. John will now click.
Hello,
play.
good sir. Can you please tell me what 20 times 10 is?
That sounds like people I know from Amsterdam.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to, it doesn't work for every language, but you go to a lot of other languages there. Let's see, can you find French, Italiano down there? You see that, John?
Hello, good sir. Can you please tell me what 20 times 10 is?
Obviously, it ain't perfect. Not that there's a perfect accent, but it shows the phonetical parts of a language that become part of the brain that transfer over. I just found this utterly fascinating. I loved it. I just loved it. We're going to find out next week that it's all wrong and it's not real story. And I just got taken, but I'm going to believe it for now because I want to.
But as discussed on Sunday's show, when people are buying the services of a voiceover actor to do an ad or whatever, they're not just trying to pay for their face or just, the pretties of it, if you will. They're wanting that extra oomph that voiceover, that actor brings to the table. Mr. Laporte does our ad reads, and he does them unlike anybody else there in the studio. And everybody knows it, because it's just him. The copy is going to say this and that, and he's going to hit everything in that copy, but he's also going to put some extra stuff in there that I'm just not going to have, or Mr. Sargent's not going to have, and it's just going to work. So I think we're still going to be safe as long as we still have some of that human oomph to it that AI just doesn't have yet.
But if it eliminates the drudgery, if you don't have to write that market report anymore, then I think that's a fine thing. It puts more resource into where it's valuable. Mm-hmm. Any other stories you guys want to hit in here anywhere?
In the quick takes or just in general?
Anywhere. Oh, the world is your oyster.
Oh. You hit everything that I was looking. Oh no, LG rollable TVs. They're finally going to be here in the U.S. Who's buying one for $100,000?
How much?
I was going to say for $100,000. I'm going to buy
Don't think, honey. You know how you hate having a huge TV? I'm going to get a TV that rolls away. You like that? Can I do it? Can I just buy it? Okay.
Just buy a frame TV, and then you can turn it into art or your NFT viewer when you're not.
My NFT viewer, exactly.
Much cheaper.
Yeah.
Oh man, I remember seeing those at CES, and it looked great, but it just no, not for everybody. It's totally fine to have my thin OLED TV out on display. That's not really bothering anybody, but I guess there's something to your TV being able to hide in your viewing room.
How long ago did you buy your main TV?
For me, my TV is fairly new. It may be 3 years old, 4 years old.
Stacey?
And that was after having a DLP TV for the longest. I had that DLP forever, and I replaced the bulb in it twice, I think, because it was just cheap to do that, and it still looked good.
I think ours we bought in 2013 with our new house, with when we built our house, and I think this is that same TV. I don't know. We don't really watch a lot of TV.
I think I got mine free because I did a talk for Sony, and that's how I got paid many years ago. I was like 15 years old, and I don't know that I get 4K now, but I don't know that I care. It's amazing. Oh, I got a quick question, Stacey. Maybe you know about this from security. Russia's ransomware group goes the way of Twitter fleets and disappears.
Dark Trace? Or our evil?
Any theories? Our evil.
Was it our evil disappearing or Dark Trace disappearing that you're talking about?
I think it was our evil.
Oh, okay. Because Dark Trace also disappeared.
Does this mean something actually happened, or?
It could, or it could just be, did they get paid? Because if they got paid, they could have just been like, all right, we're paid. Now we go away. I don't know.
Again. Yeah. All right. Anything else from you, Stacey, before we get to our whatchamacallits? Okay. We covered a lot.
Nothing. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ant, for a good rundown. All right. This is a moment when I'm going to take an uncharacteristic breath. And now, how smooth was that, guys? Huh? How smooth?
That was just, you crushed it, sir. Such a dadgum pro.
So now we're here with things, and stuff. Ant, why don't you start us off?
I'm trying to get my link in here for Mr. Jammer B, but I keep scrolling past this section here. But it's I've been watching HBO Max here and there, and there's a series on there called Generation Hustle. I just clicked on it for the heck of it, and the first 2 episodes didn't really do much for me. One was about WeWork. I already knew that story, but this one that I watched the other night was talking about scammers. And it's this hip hop artist. I believe his name was TJX6 or something like that, X-Ray 6. And it was so fascinating that this rapper put out an album that basically walked people through different types of cyber scams. He told people how to get phones for next to nothing and how to do, how to get on tour and whatnot. And he ended up getting himself a $5 million record deal because his numbers were just through the roof for Instagram and YouTube and whatnot. And he got himself a record deal. Yeah, that's him. Got himself a record deal, signed his contract. Of course, he didn't sign it in his real name. But a lot of it's just brilliant on his part from a marketing standpoint, even though it's a lot of serious stuff in there that people go to jail for quite often. It's just, I don't know, it's just a different take. And I watched it last night, and the youngest hardhead walked in on me watching it. And I asked him, did he know this rapper? And he didn't know the rapper. And we started listening to some of the stuff that he was saying. And I was telling the hardhead, I said, haven't I told you guys about ABCD when it comes to your social media? Because I used to be really protective over their social media. I'm not as protective now. But it was just neat to see that they could see that on the screen, and it's not just the old bald head dad yelling at them to be careful with their online presence and things like that.
Good. All right, I'm going to go first because I want Stacey's to be the big banger closer because I care about it too. I'm curious to hear what it is. I'm going to mention a couple things real quick. TikTok caused a rush on ukulele sales. I just kind of like the butterfly wheel.
Okay.
Right? People are doing ukuleles to make musical things that would drive
Shocking.
Insane. It's bad enough as musical. It's ukulele musical. I think the most important story of the week, but it's not going to be my number, but Popeyes is planning nuggets. That they're going to kill the nuggets.
Spicy nuggets?
I think that's a choice, I would imagine, but get classic nuggets. But they're going to be Mondo nuggets. They're the Popeye fried chicken. Ant, you looking forward to that? Stacey, looking forward to that?
No. Because
they're bad for you, or just because you don't like
Popeyes? No. When I want fried chicken on the bone, dadgummit, because that's
okay.
On the bone.
So I'm excited. I'm excited because we can't eat at Chick-fil-A anymore, and so Popeyes, if you combine their chicken nuggets, especially if they're spicy, with their biscuit, oh my God, you'd have like big chicken minis, and I would be very excited about that.
That works.
A little honey in there with the spicy and the biscuit and the
Okay. Yeah.
And then my heart would stop.
So I actually went to Popeyes today. I got the sandwich, and I was halfway through eating it when I realized they left the mayo off, which was better for me.
Shame.
But disappointing. Yeah.
As long as they're pickles, I'm okay.
The pickles, that was what I said to myself. I wasn't going to go storming back in to get the mayo because it was better for me not to have it because I was eating something very fried. My stuff of the week is dead startup toys. I don't know.
I'm glad someone brought this up. I love it.
I love this. This reminds me of the great old site F Company, but this is hardware things that have died. Some of which we've talked about in the show. The Juicero. It's kind of what do you call that thing when you make a big deal? The tombstone.
Vaporware.
No, it's when you make a big deal and they make it plastic and they put it up there, right? So this is a tombstone for the Juicero, the Jibo. What was it?
Jibo.
I think that used to sponsor this show at some point.
That's right. I think they did. The one laptop per child, which I thought was going to change the world. I
remember that.
And the coolest cooler, and of course, the Theranos Mini Lab. Now, sadly, they're all sold out, having done better as joke tombstones than they did as businesses. But I think this is funny. I like this. So we could soon have tombstones to the things that Google has killed, but that'll be another day.
Why not?
a lot of plastic right there.
All right, Stacey. So you get to shut up yourself and myself in the middle of the night now.
Okay, so here's my app. Y'all, I think I've talked about this because I've tried various snore stopping things, but I snore. And I thought I snored a lot. So I downloaded an app called Snore Lab, and it's an iOS and Android app. Here's Snore Lab. and it's free. There is a paid version. And basically what it does is you plug your phone in, you set it face down next to you while you sleep, you hit start, and it records your snoring. So y'all, I'm going to take you to snoring Stacey style. You're going to hear me snore.
We saw your house and we're seeing your snoring. This is Stacey post-privacy today.
Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, I got it. Hold on. This is going to be fun and complicated. So let's see if I can do this. I'm going to switch out my headbuds. I forgot when I was trying to play something on this, it was going to break because the Bluetooth. Okay, now we're going to play Stacey snoring. Is it playing? There it is.
That sounded cute.
Oh, that's so loud. That's so low. Here's some big
lovely.
Snores. Okay, that's my snoring. Could y'all hear that?
Miss Stacey, that's not snoring. That's not snoring.
That's like a little animal chirping happily.
I think Kylo is louder than that. That's not snoring.
So that's what keeps my husband awake at night. I want y'all to know this and makes me feel like I'm
earplugs.
I'm going to send you
earplugs.
I'm going to send you a Kylo, and I'm probably going to send you a Queen Pruitt too.
So yeah. So I sat here and this is the user interface. It records your snores and it gives you a snore score. It gives you the time that you're snoring. And so it says that when people download this app, they have a snore score of around 25. Mine is 1. So I felt a sense of really frustrated anger at my husband, who's made me feel like a total terrible person. Like I've been taping my mouth shut. I bought the Smart Nora.
We got to call him out on that.
I sense a New York Times trend story coming on this. The snorers revolt.
I mean, because I felt bad, and like he would go and spend the night. Like sometimes he's like, Stacey, it was just too much last night. Because like sometimes, my migraine medicines, sometimes I'll take like a muscle relaxer because my shoulders get all, and then I'm like just gone. So anyway, so this app lets you track it. It also offers you some insights that say things like, you have the option of saying like, did you drink the night before? So you can start recognizing patterns.
Can I just make that default?
You can. I mean, so some of the factors they have include things like, did you fast 4 hours before dinner? Did you drink alcohol? Were you congested? Did you take a shower? Did you eat late? Did you take a sedative?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So all of that's in there. You can add them. And then what it does is it says things like, hey, by the way, your snoring seems to be related to this, or is your snoring, this type? Here's what you should do about that. So basically.
So I want to know, did you take the app to Andrew and say, huh? You think this is bad? Huh?
I did. I said, and I will confess, they did say that there is like 4 quote unquote epic snores on here. But I mean, like last night I snored for a total of 3 minutes, and the night before I snored for a total of 9 minutes. And that's not that terrible.
All right, Mr. Andy, you're full of it, bro. I'm sorry. I just got to call it like it is. I think he's full of it.
I mean, I get it. I do snore, but
no, you don't.
I mean, I'm allergic to dust mites.
You chirp and chortle.
That's not snoring.
Well, and when he snores, because I call that heavy breathing, and I think it's relaxing when I hear him breathing. I'm like, oh, that's nice.
He's alive.
He's alive. Well, it's both. He's alive and he's sleeping. I feel like comforted that he's happy and is sleeping. Anyway,
I get that.
So if y'all have been told that you snore, this might help you stop, or at least help you evaluate as you're trying things to stop.
Or win your marital fight. Yes.
Or it will help you tell your husband or wife or whomever that they are nuts and This app proves it.
Get the app and
try it on
This Week in Google.
Well, all I want to say at the end of this is I hope this show doesn't get a high score. Thank you, Stacey. Thank you, Ant. Thank you, John. Thank you, Leo, for going on vacation. I hope you and company are having a great time. And thank you, audience, for tolerating us for a long time, but a lot of stories, a lot of great stuff. And so that is this week.
I got one more thing. Hold on.
Oh, please,
one more thing.
Sorry.
I meant to add this to my thing, and it's a shout out to one of our listeners, Miss Gabrielle. Last week, Miss Stacey was doing a little demonstration, and I asked her to do it again because it just looked like it had been perfect for a GIF. Well, look what happened.
Oh
no! Sure enough, Miss Gabrielle was like, "Really? You had to bait me in creating a GIF, and sure enough, she did. So, shout out to her. Thank you so much. That is perfect. Awesome.
That is hilarious.
You know that's an NFT if I ever saw one. That's worth buying.
I want y'all to know that I'm wearing a different black shirt than the black shirt.
It was so great when you did it, and I was like, "Yep, there's a moment." And today, I think your other moment would be when he asked about this the nano leaf on the wall, and you was like, "I did that." And the look on your face,
I was like.
Gabrielle, thank you so much.
Awesome.
My daughter will appreciate that.
Yes. You just sent it over. Oh, I forgot. The thing Lee always does so nicely is to figure out plugs. Ant, what do you plug?
I'm going to plug my show first off. Yeah, my show, Hands On Photography, twit.tv/hop. We're going to be back in the studio soon shooting, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I got to see Mr. Victor yesterday and give him a hug. I love that dude. He's just good people. But I also want to plug today's Floss Weekly that we recorded this morning with Mr. Dave Tatt, talking about buffer bloat. A lot of stuff I had no idea about, but man, he was so good today. He's doing the show from a boat, and he's smoking a pipe. It was great. And it's twit.tv/floss.
Floss, the Floss crew, always great. I'm talking to Doc, I think, tomorrow.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
That man, he's quite a character too. I'll just leave it at that.
He is indeed, but he's one of the pioneers. I admire. Stacey, your plug.
Oh, my plug will be for the Internet of Things podcast and the Stacey on IoT newsletter, because they're free and fun, and you'll learn lots of crazy things.
And I will plug Kevin Toffel's about Chromebooks, even though he won't tell me which Chromebook to buy. I still love him. And now, people, that's a wrap. Thank you all very, very much. I'm not sure what Leo's supposed to say at this moment, but I'll just say salute.
Android may be just another operating system, but when you check out all about Android, you'll realize that Android's also a ton of fun. Join me, Jason Howell, and my co-hosts, Florence Ion and Ron Richards, and a whole slew of guests that we invite on the show every week. Every Tuesday, in fact, we talk about the latest Android news, hardware, apps, and we answer a ton of your Android-related questions as well. Don't miss All About Android at twit.tv.